everyone, welcome to Mammoth Interactive's course on a double shooter game made in GameMaker. Okay, that fantastic tool which allows us to make very simple games. And the goal of this game is to destroy all the enemies. Do not let them reach the end of the game, which is the right portion of the window. So they're going to spawn in a quicker rate over time, and you have a limited amount of bullets. Your weapons, they have some sort of cooldown logic to it, so you can't just spam these bullets, and you have to survive as long as you can. So this course is intended for beginners, so if this is your first time making a game, if you are learning how to code, or maybe you're just bored and you want to learn something new, then this is going to be great for you. My name is Glaucopidis. I've been working in the game industry since 2010, and over the years I worked with several different game engines and technologies like Unity, Flash, HTML5, Unreal. I've worked with Construct 2 as well, and GameMaker of course, so I have some experience to share with you, and I structured this course in a few topics. Okay, so we're going to discuss each topic separately. We're going to talk about click events, we're going to talk about overlapping, we're going to talk about how to make sprites. So we're going to see each topic one at a time in a slow pace, so you understand everything that is going to make this game work. Alright? If you don't own GameMaker Studio yet, you can go to the Yo-Yo Games website. You can make a free account and activate a free license, and after that you're allowed to download GameMaker Studio. After that, you should move to the next video where we're going to learn how to make a GameMaker project and understand the most basic concepts of this great tool. Okay, so I hope you're excited to start this, and I see you soon. After you open GameMaker Studio, you should see this screen here with several tabs at the top. We're going to choose New because we're going to make a new game. And every game made in GameMaker is in a separate project, so there's going to be a separate folder for each of your projects. Here in project directory, I'm going to leave my home folder, and then I create a projects folder. This is a good practice for you, because if you just drop your games in the documents or desktop or any other folder, it's going to mix up with other personal files of yours. So just have a projects or a workspaces folder if you want. Now for project name, we're going to name this double shooter. And after that, we just have to hit create to wait for GameMaker to open and have this interface ready for us. So let's take a quick look here. At the top, we have a few tools available for us, so we can create sprites, sounds, and backgrounds. But the things that matter the most here are this save the game button and also this run the game button. Okay, we're going to be using these most. And if you own a better version of GameMaker, you can choose other target platforms here to make your games. Okay, so the thing that matters the most here is the hierarchy view, which is this little tree we see here at the left. Okay, this is the hierarchy tree. So this works like in your computer. So you have a home folder, and then in that home folder you have images, you have downloads, you have documents. So there are several folders which you can access and then do whatever you want with the files that you have. And that's more or less how it works with GameMaker. It is a great constraint that GameMaker does. You have different folders for every different game element in this game. So it could be a font, it could be a sprite, it could be an object, or maybe a background, for example. You have several different things that can be used here. But the things that matter the most for us in these lessons are the sprites, and then we have objects, and finally we have rooms. Okay, these are the three we're going to work with the most. So to give visual to things, we need to work with sprites. So let's take a look at them. We're going to right click on sprites, select create sprite, and we maximize this window. And first of all, I want to make a cannon. Okay, since this is a shooter game, we're going to put two cannons, one at the bottom and another one at the top of the level. So the name of this sprite is going to be cannon, but it is a very important practice to start with SPR in the beginning. So you have SPR underscore cannon. So if you make another element, so if you make a font, for example, it's going to start with FNT. if you make an object, it's going to start with obj. This is very important because it keeps things organized. You can easily access different elements of a same type by just typing these initials, by just typing this abbreviation when you're making code. Okay, so we have that. And if you already have a Canon image in your computer, you can just click here on Load Sprite to load an external file. But for us to make things from the ground up, we're going to click on Edit Sprite. We're going to see this window here. So to make a new sprite, let's click here to create a new sprite, and we have to choose the size of that sprite. I'm going to keep it at, let me see, 64 by 64. We're going to use this size here. So we click OK, and you're going to see that there is an image here. Okay, there's just one image, and there's a gray checkerboard, but don't worry, this is not the actual image. It's just GameMaker telling you that this is a transparent square. You have no big details here. There's no big deal here. And if you wanted to make an animation, you would add several different images here. So they're going to change after time moves on. But we're going to use just one. So let's double click it, and we're going to have a very simple image editor, like if you have ever used Paint or GIMP or Photoshop, this should be very simple for you. We're just going to click in this magnifying glass with a plus sign to zoom in. And for the Canon, I'm going to choose the ellipse tool. You have different tools here which you can use. You can use a pencil, you can use a draw line, you can make a rectangle, but I'm going to start with an ellipse. So we click here on ellipse tool. On shape, I want to make sure that outline and filled is selected. Okay, so whenever we make objects that, whenever we draw polygons, so the polygon, rectangle, ellipse, or round rectangle, we have to set two colors. When we use this, we have to set the outline color, which is the first one, and we have to set the filled color, which is the second one. So for the outline color, I'm going to use white, so I'm going to left click in the white color. And for right, I'm going to use, let me see, aqua. Okay, we're going to use the aqua color, so I right click on that blue. You could call light blue if you want. So to draw that, we're going to click here on draw an ellipse, and I'm going to drag it more or less from the middle of the screen, so it's going to look like this. Okay, and finally, to make to give a better look for this cannon, I'm going to choose around the rectangle tool. Okay, I'm going to keep the same, actually I'm going to use a darker tone of blue for the fill color, so it looks like this. And I'm going to make the kind of cannons to be like this. Okay, they're going to be standing out from that. Okay, and if you want to make this a little bit better, we can use the pencil tool to maybe give a better fill here. And then we can choose this tone of aqua to clear what we just drew here. Okay, so these are the details. You don't have to worry a lot about this, but this is just for giving this a better look. Okay, we can even maybe remove this outline that separates these two tones of blue, so it looks like one continuous thing. Okay, these are artistic details, and it's up to you to how you want to design this cannon. Okay. And to finish, I'm going to add just one little thing here at the middle. I'm just going to add that. Okay. Now we can click here on this green check to save our sprite. We're going to click here again. So we have our Canon sprite here. And to make sure that whenever we rotate that sprite, it's going to rotate properly, we're going to click on center here. So you're going to see that there's a cross in the middle of our sprite. This is just to say that the center, that the origin of that image is there. And why do we need to do this? If we had a sprite like this one here, and we have an arrow that points to the right, for example, and if we rotated it, okay, so let me make a wider arrow. Okay, so it looks like this. If we rotated it 90 degrees, that arrow would look like this. Okay, now there is a detail here. If you have never made games, this should be a bit different, but we rotated this entire image instead of just rotating this arrow here where we have at the center. So if we move the center, the origin, to the center of the image, so we have an arrow here and we have the center pinned here. If we rotate that arrow, it's going to look like this. Okay, so it's like you added a pin in the middle of the sprite. You're going to see this when we perform the rotation of the cannon. Alright, so now that we have a sprite, we want to know how do we make it interact with our game. The thing is, sprites, they don't behave in the game. You can't make collisions with sprites, you can't apply physics, you can't do any complicated checks with it. So to make it work, we're not going to make the sprite work, but to make it, a thing that is going to work and it contains a sprite, we need to make an object. So you go here to the objects folder, right click and select create object. We're going to name this obj_cannon, and here in sprite we're simply going to click in this button and select spr_cannon and hit OK to save it. So we have a cannon object. This is something that is going to be added to the game. And now that we have this object, how do we add it to the game? Okay, how do we have a place where we're going to put our logic in, where we're going to put cannons and bullets and other things. To do that, we need a room. And a room is like a screen or a scene. It's a place where things are going to happen. It could be a menu room, okay, where you have buttons to play the game or see the options, or it could be a game room where the actual game mechanic is going to take place. So we're going to right click on rooms, select create room. Let's zoom in. The name of this room is going to be rm_game. Now width and height is the size in pixels of that room. I'm going to use 800 pixels of width and 640 pixels of height just for it to fill in this recording. And in speed we're going to use 60. Okay, and speed is the number of steps per second. It's how many frames your game is going to use per second. So 60 is a smooth experience, but when you use it you have to be very careful with performance, because if the game lags it might ruin the experience of your player, of your audience. Okay, so be careful with that. And now to add a cannon to the game, we can simply go to the Objects tab here. We have to make sure that Object to add with left mouse is set to cannon. If it isn't, you just click here and select the cannon object, and you just click in the room so the cannon is added. Okay, you have a cannon object here. And now to test this out, we can click on this check mark just to make sure our room is saved and the game appears here, so the name is fully refreshed. And we can now just click on run the game to wait for the game to compile, to everything to be processed by GameMaker, and we see our window with cannon in the middle. Okay, so this should be it for this lesson. In the next one we're going to learn how to add a very basic background here. The idea of making backgrounds here is that we're going to draw some things and that are not going to affect how the game is going to run. So this is essentially visual. We're going to add some sort of borders here to the sides because we're going to have two turrets. One of the turrets is going to be here at the top, and the second one is going to be here at the bottom. So there's going to be some sort of differentiation between the area that enemies are going to storm and the area that you play, and then you just have your cannons here. So let's go. We're going to the backgrounds folder. Let's right click here and select create background. We're going to name this bkg game. Let's hit edit background, and that background is going to default to the size of 64 by 64 pixels. We need to make it a bit bigger. To do that, let's go and transform. We're going to select resize canvas. Let's disable this keep aspect ratio, and the size here in pixels is going to be set on what the size of your room is. So since my room is 800 pixels of width by 640 pixels of height, that's what I'm going to add here, 800 by 640. We hit OK. So we have a very big canvas to work with. We can scroll the mouse to zoom in and zoom out here. So we can do different things here. First of all, let's click on fill an area, which is the paint bucket tool. Let's select black for the left color and click, so we have full black here. And now on draw a polygon, I'm going to choose filled only. Okay, I'm not going to require a outline for this. And I'm going to choose a dark gray. Okay, I'm going to use this one here. And that's up to you, okay? You can use whatever you want. So I'm going to click on the left here. I'm just going to click and drag to other positions to draw some sort of high-tech border here. Okay, so we are going to make it like this. Right, it might take some practice for you to get used to using these tools, but essentially you just select the right things and click and drag and drop until you draw what you want. Okay, let me do now for this side. We just click and drag and the polygon is going to fill itself. Okay, and the final touch here. And if you didn't like this color, you can just select the paint bucket tool and then choose something else. I think this blue might not contrast well with our sprite, so let's choose a darker one, and maybe this almost black. Yeah, this should work just fine for us. Okay, and just to add a very little detail, let's add a kind of a dark blue mark here in the game, like it's showing the path that the enemies are going to follow. Okay, so maybe almost like it is a track where cars are going to run to. And finally, let's draw an ellipse as well, and we're going to select a dark red color and make it like this. Okay, so enemies, they're going to come from the left and they're going to zigzag until they reach the end of the level through the right. Okay, so let's make a design like that. We now click OK on that gray check mark to save the background. Let's click OK again. And to load the background in the room, we just go to the Backgrounds tab. And here where it says foreground image, we're going to click here and choose BKG underscore game. Okay, so we have our background here. And also let's move our cannon to the bottom. Okay, because we're going to have one cannon here and another one there. Now let's click on run the game to see how this is going to look like. Wait for the code to compile, and our window is open and we can finally see how it looks like. Okay, so we have our cannon here and the background. Alright, so in the next video let's learn how to make the cannon follow the mouse. Okay, we're going to work with events and actions to make it point to wherever we are pointing.